Okay, hello everybody. Again, welcome to GIS class. Today I'm going to talk about a couple different things, but primarily this is an introduction to Lab 5, which is the next lab you guys are going to undertake. And in this one, this is going to be different than some of the earlier labs. I wanted to try something new and different for you guys. So instead of working through the textbook, and in future labs we'll go back to the textbook because there's some additional really cool examples and tools in there. I wanted to take a break from that and try some other things for you guys. So the intent for this lab is to give you guys some experience and demonstration using different tools and functions in ArcGIS Pro with a focus on some of these different tools that are available, right? And if you were to click on one of these toolboxes, as you probably have seen, like there's literally hundreds and hundreds of different tools available, and it's sometimes confusing, and it's hard to know if those tools exist, and if they do exist, what they actually do. So hopefully today we're going to, or through this lab, get exposed to a suite of some of these guys' tools, and you guys will have an opportunity to kind of hone your presentation chops a little bit by making some voiceover videos. But so there's 3 parts to the lab. You're going to create a voiceover video exploring one of these geoprocessing tools, and I'll share that in a little bit. You're going to work with ArcGIS Server, which is an interesting source of, in this case, imagery that's hosted in the cloud that you're able to access. And so instead of having to download imagery on your machine, you're going to work with imagery that the USDA, Natural Resource Conservation Service, is hosting for imagery across the Pacific. And in the end, you're going to make a map using some data, potentially from Chicago, but other places if the Chicago data doesn't work for you, and hopefully using some new tools, including outputs from the video tutorials that you guys are going to eventually generate. So today's the 2nd of March. There's actually 2 deadlines for submissions for this lab. The first one is Monday at noon, and that's going to be the voiceover video file that you generate, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then the rest of the lab will be due on the 11th, just before midnight. So there's 2 deadlines for this. The reason there's 2 deadlines is the submitted videos that you guys provide, I will make those available to everybody in the class, so that it can basically be a resource for folks in the class to kind of learn about additional tools. When you do submit the video file, and if you look in Laulima, there's actually 2 assignments for this lab. There's one for the video submission, and there's one for the rest of it. The video file should be named, tool name, last name. So if the tool you're working on was the merge tool, I don't think that's one of the options. I don't know what kind of esoteric options you get. But it would be called merge_Smith if the last name is Smith. So again, there's 3 parts to this lab, and it's all focused on geoprocessing, where you take existing data and you transform it into new information and knowledge. And these can be simple, or they can be relatively complicated. Again, there's 3 parts. First part, you'll hone your teaching and video production skills and teach us how to use a tool that's likely new or not that familiar to us. And then the second part is this online image server application, which should be pretty fun, I think, and do a little bit of additional digitizing. And then the third part is where you're going to make a map using some of these skills that we've developed, and potentially some of these new tools that we're working on and figuring out. So in part 1, teach us that tool. So like as I said, there's hundreds and hundreds of tools available, but unless you know about them, they can't really help you. So you're going to be asked to work with a new tool and make a short voiceover tutorial video that can be a resource for your classmates and others. So you can use any software you like to do the video recording. I'm talking to you guys right now via Zoom. I'm going to record that, and that's a fairly easy one to use. But however you do it, it'll need to be saved in a format that can be opened by it. So this is, 40 points out of the 100 points for this one. So I've created a spreadsheet. It's a Google Doc or a Google spreadsheet, and basically I can pull this up, and it looks like this. So here's there's an assortment, a menu of different tools that you can use, and there's an honor system. So I don't want anybody to like delete somebody's name from this, right? But if I wanted to use a project tool, I would just type my name in. And then I would then have ownership of that tool, and then that would be the tool that I would have selected. So again, be nice to each other. Don't delete anybody's name. Just use select the tool, and if the tool you're interested in, is taken, as an opportunity to learn a new thing, right? But there's some pretty interesting ones in here. The link to the file is in the Word document. Let me go back. It's in the Word document, which is posted on Lalima. Yes, so this should have been posted on Lalima. Okay, no problem. No problem at all. Okay, so once you have chosen the tool, you need to figure out how to use it. And so a good place to start is kind of learning about the help information. Searching online, I imagine there might already be some videos about how to use a tool or other things, or written up things. A couple things to note. These tools some of them require specific types of data. So some tools they only work on a digital elevation model, right? Some tools only work on points, right? Some tools need multiple files to be input into the tool. So you're going to need to understand that. And I want you to, kind of explore the tool beyond just like, accepting the defaults and hitting go, right? So what happens? What are the different options? What if you change the parameters? How do these affect the outcome? So I want you to, kind of spend a little bit of time of exploring the tool and think about what it's actually doing in terms of the calculation and processing. But once you got a tool, you sort of explored it, you kind of know how it works. Then you need to find or create some data that you'll use to demonstrate the tool in a short, less than 5 minute, voiceover tutorial video, and put together a rough script for your talking points and demonstration steps. If the tool does some calculated or complicated calculations, and it does all kinds of things, and if you ran it on a big data set, it would have to run for 45 minutes. Like that's not that useful for us in the demonstration. So you may want to clip your data or have it on a limited size to make sure the running doesn't take too long. And the demonstration should hopefully be interesting. Right? It shouldn't just be you like boringly read out the written existing description. Right? We can already do that. The idea is that this video should be an educational resource for folks to learn about and explore this in a relatively quick and painless way. And so demonstrate it via some kind of interesting application. That's probably a good idea. So that's where there's some work, because you have to gather some data to make it run and do something interesting. In the format of the video, it's kind of just like now. It should just show your screen and cursor with just your voice explaining what's happening. So I don't want no faces in this video. I don't know if you guys can see my face now. So it just should be the screen, and then you talking, and then sort of demonstrating what's happening. Okay. And then once you have that, you just record it. You post it to Lalima before the deadline. Again, the deadline is Monday at noon. If the file's too big for some reason, I don't think it should be, but if it is, you can just send it to me via some kind of a link on Lalima. But if you do that, make sure I have permission to access the link. Oftentimes students will submit stuff, and they don't also give me the rights to actually access the link. So please make sure you do that. And the videos will be evaluated on the basis of clarity, thoroughness of the explanation, educational value, and quality, appropriateness, and originality of the application. So you're using the tool on data sets that are not appropriate for that tool. It's probably not going to be a very helpful tool. Okay, so that's and again, it's totally different than prior labs, but hopefully this will be an interesting challenge for you guys. Just some notes about Zoom and then the dev. Okay, part 2 is getting some experience with these ArcGIS servers and sort of connecting to an online server that is hosting high resolution imagery. In this case, it's imagery from major parts of the US Pacific Basin. So Guam and parts of Micronesia and Palau and such. So there's a bunch of step-by-step directions here about connecting to the server and going through these steps. Should all be pretty straightforward. And then this is from Palau. That's an example of what it looks like. When you load the data or you load the imagery, it might take a little while. So be patient because it's pretty high resolution. So there's a lot of data coming in. So it might take a little while. And then I ask you to, for the Palau one, navigate to Palau Community College and then, look at some stuff and do some digitizing. So that should be hopefully pretty fun and pretty straightforward. And then part 3 is going back to the sort of geoprocessing idea. And I've provided a link to some data from Chicago, the city of Chicago. Here, they are pretty good about hosting all kinds of different data. And the idea for this one is you don't have to use data from Chicago if you don't want to, but it's just a resource. I'd like you to select, some of these GIS data sets from Chicago or otherwise, and basically, use at least one of these new tools that folks have posted the videos on. And this will be a resource for you guys to create a new map or a new visualization that shows something new and interesting. And then along with that, just a write-up that explains what you did, the tools and data sets you use, why this is interesting and useful, and then the cartographic decisions you made to effectively present your information. And then you export that guy and then submit. Okay, so that's so there's 3 parts to the lab, and again, there's 2 different deadlines for this guy. The first deadline is Monday at noon for the video file, and then the next one is on the 11th for the rest of the lab. Okay, so that's kind of an introduction to the lab assignment. I hope it should be an interesting one for you guys. And let me stop the recording at this point.